What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber for True DFS. We are going to be talking over some baseball today. We have a monster slate and the monster tournaments. I know I'm playing a few in the 2,500. I know Sheets is playing the 2,500. We've got other members, Rody playing the 2,500. I want to give a quick little shout out to Terrence, Baby T. He won over 10K last night off of $67, and that's pretty sweet. So congratulations to Big T. I'm sorry, Baby T, for having a big night. I had another good night on FanDuel, not a good night on DraftKings, and I just realized that I thought I'd talk through a little bit maybe what's going on. Actually, yesterday I scripted on DraftKings, and I played the 150 and all that stuff. But what I noticed that with FanDuel is just partially the way the site is and everything, I end up sticking to sort of a similar core a lot more. And I usually make my decisions after I build my DraftKings lineup. So I'm not saying this is the right way or this is the way, but I've been doing really, really well on FanDuel. I mean, it's been like 3 weeks now where I basically am coming in the top 15 or 12 or whatever in every monster almost. Some of them I haven't quite led to the win. I got a couple seconds in there, but it's really I think it does have to do with going through everything on DraftKings, and also you can see what people aren't going to do on FanDuel. And my natural instinct is just to complete, and especially in baseball, just say F it and go over and play your plays on FanDuel, the same ones you play on DraftKings. Just because somebody's cheap and they look like a good value on DraftKings, no one's going to play them on FanDuel. And you get the reverse thing with guys like Yasmani Grandal. Everybody will play him on FanDuel, but not as much on DraftKings because he's the price discrepancy. But overall, I really feel like it's helped me to do my DraftKings builds first for my FanDuel builds. I don't know how to correct it exactly on DraftKings, but I'm going to need to by tonight, because by 1 a.m. Eastern time, I'm hoping to win $1 million. I'm hoping me or Sheets or Rody or one of the true DFSers get it. Anyway, with all that said, Sheets, how was your night? And then what do you think about the slate?
I didn't have a very good night in DFS, but I'm ready to get into today. I had too much. I had basically almost 100% Wheeler, so that was the end of that. But yeah, ready to get after today. I think it's a very, even though it's I talk about this a lot, but even though it's a 15-game slate, I think you can make it somewhat small. You can't be 100% confident about it, but I think I have an idea of what I want to do. And you don't have to, also with 15 games /30 hitting teams to choose from, you don't have to just play the most popular one either, So I think as far as the 2,500 goes, I think I have a couple of options that I can go to that will make me feel comfortable, that won't make me feel like I'm wimping out, So we'll see what we're after.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's bunch up your screen. We'll go game by game. If there's one thing that sort of stands out on DraftKings, especially today, it's just Lucas Giolito's price is absurd. I would expect that he ends up closer to the projections have been a little bit off with the pitching lately, partly because they were trying to account for weather and Wheeler ended up lower owned yesterday, even though it didn't work out or whatever. And all of a sudden you had 60-something% owned Robbie Ray, whereas I think it was going to be closer to split between those two. But today, I just don't see a way that Giolito is just not by far and away the most popular play on the slate. But maybe we'll see. Things change. And knock on wood, so far the weather, we don't look like we have a lot of weather to be overly concerned about yet. So, all right, let's talk about the first game. Sheets, why don't you start us off and let us know what you think about the pitching? And then
I just wanted to give you, by the way, a little quick preview. You ready for this?
Yep.
Something ready? Look at this. First run of NFL projections has been run for week one.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so first game is a possible weather game, and if in fact I was confident that this game would go, I think that Washington would be a team worth considering. But it's a really, really big slate, and if there's any place where you don't want to be screwing with the weather, it's in Washington. So I'm off of this.
Somehow I looked at my first run, and for some reason I didn't have the weather on this game for some reason. So I apologize for that. That is a big concern. I'm not going to play either pitcher either way, but I do think that you can attack some spots. I just think we want to wait. If we really think it's going to play clearly, I think that, look, would I throw Patrick Corbett into a $10 tournament or something with 1 million people? Maybe. from a hitting standpoint, though, like I do think that Andrew McCutchen especially, this guy's been killing left-handed pitching this year, as he sort of always does after a down year or two. Galvis has been good from the right side. You've got Torreyes down there, who's really cheap. It was helpful to me yesterday on FanDuel. Rio Muto, maybe more of a FanDuel play, but I think that especially the Philly offense, but I think both sides you can make some cases for, and I am happy to take a shot on both these stacks. I just the main plays would be like Lane Thomas, Carter Kieboom are way too cheap. Kieboom just quietly seems to keep crushing. You could put Robles in that category. They're just really cheap on the Washington side, and then they're on the Philly side. There's a big upside there for them. So I do think it's interesting, this game. I have both the teams on my list as to look at potentially stacking, but again, obviously we need the weather to be okay for that to happen. So why don't you start? Go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say is that don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if McCutchen sits tonight. I don't know if you were watching the game yesterday, yeah. but there was a couple of times, like first he like almost pulled up Lane at first base, and then when he was at the plate, just to like avoid a pitch near him, he like shook his body a little bit, and the trainers had to come out, and it was just kind of weird. And then he was like 3 inches away from hitting like a 500-foot home run down the left side. So just don't be surprised if he does if something happened on last night.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
All right, so we could go right into it. So Baltimore, Toronto. Toronto is going to rate as the top overall stack from a raw points perspective, and their value is not that bad either. So they're going to be the top team. They're going to be the highest owned team. And, that's a pretty important decision point, and you can get to them, because as you mentioned, Giolito's super cheap. There's other places you can go to be able to afford Toronto. So that's going to be your first decision, is whether you make Toronto your 5-man stack or a 4-man, or make sure you get a couple of pieces from there. And Baltimore is the usual value in the outfield. Don't know if I'm going to get to it today, but they're always good value in the outfield. And as far as pitching goes, I don't like Aiken and Ryu. I have him as a pitcher that I would get to if I played 50 lineups, but probably not if I played less than that. Yeah. I have him like 6, 7, 8, something like that. So that's where I am.
Ryu's always been pretty good against right-handed hitters. I know it's been a little bit less this year. I think he's going to be popular, and I totally see why. I don't like, in general, I said Robbie Ray, I use as an argument against Robbie Ray. I still played Robbie Ray in about 30% of my lineups yesterday. The good ones, obviously. But Robbie Ray, I is a different type of strikeout pitcher than Ryu is.
Yes.
And I just think that I'm a little worried about that, although I could see him having a really nice outing. So I've got him on my list. Don't know where I'm going to end up with him. We'll probably figure out a little bit by the end of the show. I'm just going to point out to everyone that Toronto has been the worst offense in baseball for the last month. And I know that thanks to Vladimir Guerrero, they scored some runs last night. I don't know that without that would have been the case. I would say that if I was going to prioritize, Guerrero actually wouldn't be he's always the best play. Like, he's the best hitter in baseball. But I think there's other first basemen I like on DraftKings, and I really like George Springer against lefties in general. I like Teoscar. I like Grichuk if you want to spend down. Bichette. You have this already lineup. The one thing is, like, I played Aiken the last time out because he got to face a left-handed dominant lineup, which is pretty good against lefties. He won't have to face a single lefty tonight. So I do like Toronto. I am wary of the fact that they're going to be very chalky and that they've been really terrible and let down almost every night. Even last night, they basically let down outside of Vlad Guerrero hitting 2 home runs. But I do think that I'm probably going to end up with like near the field with them currently, because I think it can go really, really in their favor against Baltimore. It's Baltimore every game. You want to try and pick on this. There's another spot later on that we'll talk about. It'll be chalky also, but they're expensive too. Kevin Smith makes things work, and Kevin Smith might be my favorite. Might end up being my highest owned Toronto player again if he's in the lineup and they don't send him back down to the minors. All right, you want to talk? So we got the 7-inning game between New York and Miami. I think both of these pitchers are in play. Look, Cabrera threw 6 1/3. I know he only struck out 2 guys in his last game. I don't think we should look at that and just go, oh, well, that's just what's going to happen. I mean, Zach Wheeler only struck out 4 guys against the same team that he pitched against last time in 6 innings, and that's very un-Wheeler-like. I'm sort of interested in Cabrera a little bit, and I'm sort of interested in Taijuan Walker, who's been bad, but both these teams' offenses have been bad enough to give both of them the complete game is actually in play for both pitchers. Even on a pitch count, Edward Cabrera could get there. He almost did last time. He almost got the 7 innings in there. Anyway, so that's sort of where I'm at for this game. Both on my list. I don't know where I'm going to have them by the end, but certainly in the top 10 of the pitchers on the slate. I just don't know where I'm going to end up there. How about you?
Yeah, I don't even have them projected yet, so I didn't even think about it. But yeah, I mean, these 7-inning games are always. I think these pitchers tend to go lower owned sometimes because people just misunderstand the impact of the 7 innings. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't negatively impact some of these types of pitchers literally at all.
Right.
I mean, they would never go more than 7 innings anyway. If they go 7 innings, it's an extra bonus of a complete game. So.
I mean, Walker's gone 6+ in 4 straight starts.
I think it's natural for people. I think it's natural for people to like, oh, it's a 7-inning game, I'm just going to avoid the whole thing. But right. I mean, yes, but I don't know if I'm going to get to them in my big one, and I don't know how many lineups it's going to take me to get to those pitchers. I have to project them. I still have to look.
Yeah, I do think that Walker, just like he's been way worse, but it's Miami, and like I said, he's gone over 6 innings, 4 straight games, 2 of them against the Dodgers. So keep that in mind. All right, we're gonna have like a bullpen game, I think, for the next game for the Boston side of it, and then Yarbrough, who I'll take the over on his K prop. I don't know where else I stand in this game. I don't think I'm going to play him. These prices are so cheap on all these pitchers. You sort of have to just realize they're all kind of cheap. But I like Tampa Bay as a mini stack with Richards as an opener and then Perez behind him. The problem you're going to run into with Tampa Bay that you don't have as much platooning because they've got sort of a more settled lineup for the most part. But they're expensive. They're playing in a pretty bad hitter's park, and I don't like stacking against bullpen games on large slates. I say this all the time. Bad bullpen is better than is tougher than a better than average pitcher. It's hard to stack against bullpen games. And I don't know. I feel like there's spots here I want to get 2 men. I like Brandon Lau and Austin Meadows, but they probably only get 1 to 2 at bats against Richards. Then they go against a lefty, which they both struggle against lefties a little bit. I still would take a shot. They're just kind of expensive to take that shot. And then you get a Rosarena, who's definitely interesting to me, but I like the outfield a lot today. Nelson Cruz is crazy expensive. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I think I'm going to mini stack Tampa Bay as my first thought.
So you actually have to figure out what's going on with the pitching. In the DraftKings app, it actually has Richards as the long reliever and some guy Davis as the opener.
So now if that happens, I'm much more interested in stacking Tampa Bay.
I figure that's why I would bring that up.
Yeah.
I mean, the more shots you have against Richards, the better.
Right.
I think.
Absolutely.
We'll keep an eye on it, but I don't think in either case it's going to be enough for me to get to these guys on this big of a slate, like you were saying. Neither the pitcher nor the hitting, just way too many other options for me.
Yeah, I hear you. If they were a little cheaper, the Tampa Bay guys would make it easier, but I still think I'm going to try and get some in, especially if Richards is going like that. This is kind of an interesting game, this Detroit-Oakland game. Again, because if you look at first glance, I like the price and I like everything on Scooble. I actually think that Cole Irvin, I think I'll take the over on his K prop 3.5. That's an easy bet for me. I know he's not been, good lately, but we saw what this guy is, can do earlier in the season. Other than the Seattle matchup, some tough matchups lately to get strikeouts, like the White Sox as a lefty, it's harder for him. He did get Texas there. He had a good game a few times back, then he struggled the next time out. He's been sort of shaky. I probably won't end up using it on the slate, but he's on my list right now, as is Scooble. I don't find myself getting the hitting in this game. How about you?
Yeah, these next 2 games are both interesting to me for the same reason. So I actually, when I was building some lineups, one of the lineups I was getting to was actually Oakland, right? But I have a lot of respect for Scooble, man. I mean, he's good, and he throws some real gems, and it kind of got me off of Oakland as that main build. I don't know if it's good enough for me to go to Scooble. I just don't think I need it today. And Cole Irvin, I think he's okay, I suppose. Again, just depending on how many lineups you run, he's like rated for like 15, 12th best pitcher or something like that. And Skubal maybe like 10th or something. So I don't know if I'm going to get to these guys, but certainly I have enough fear of Skubal such that I would probably, not put Oakland in my big main lineup.
Yeah, I hear you there. I do think you can get to the bullpen behind him, and I think there are some bats that are good against lefties here. So it's kind of I can see the opportunity there, but you're paying a lot. I mean, I love Marte. Like, look, if Marte was 1K cheaper, I'd be talking about him as like a cash game play. Like, you know what I mean? But he's 5,800, and you kind of need that money in the outfield this on this slate. And I do think if for some reason they put Pinder towards the top of the order, while there does increase the pinch hit risk, I would be all over that play at 2,700. That's the one thing I'd say. All right, let's talk about. You're not.
Yeah. So this next game is another
one.
one.
Not going to believe my take on this game.
Well, so this was the same thing. So when I was looking, first thing I was saying is, okay, I don't know if I want to do it, but on a 15 game slate, but Gomber against Texas is probably something I might want to gamble on. And then when I was running my numbers, I was coming up with a couple of Texas guys as good values, so I'm like, oh God, again, it's the same thing I had with the Oakland, you know what I mean? Like I half of me wanted to play the pitcher, and then my numbers, half of them wanted me to play the hitters against them. So I don't know what I want to do here. I do know that that the catcher for Texas is really cheap at 2K or 2,100, and Dozo or whatever it is.
Pozo, yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly, it's kind of be kind of weird for this game to be the determining game of what I do on this slate, on a 30 game freaking slate, to have Colorado, Texas be the to determine it. You know what I mean? I just don't know what I want to do here.
Yeah, I mean, again, I hate to sound like a broken record. It is the first look, show that we're doing, but I that was my initial instinct as well.
Oh, really?
And then I thought, okay, here's what's going to happen. Who's going to win me $1 million?
Yeah, right.
Jordan Lyles. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I definitely have interest in Jordan Lyles here.
Who's the guy in the Discord? The Jordan Lyles guy?
The girl who went around. She got everybody out that day. I can't remember.
Oh, the Linda, right? Linda.
That's right, Linda.
Right.
Look, it's terrible. It's Colorado. Even on nights where they hit 3 home runs like last night, they still scored 3 runs. 2 starts ago in Boston, this guy put up 24 fantasy points. He's been over 20, I think probably more than people realize this season. And this is the weakest offense he could probably face. You do have an extreme hitters umpire, and I'm completely on board with playing the Colorado bats, except for they're so expensive. You get Sam Hilliard, who probably batting 9th, but again, I would love to. If I'm going to make a stack, he's going to be a part of it because I need the money, and I like Hilliard. Actually, he'd be my favorite play on their team. Hilliard along with Story. I mean, look, Story gets on, he's going to steal a base. Yeah, he's an excellent play. Hilliard's an excellent play if he was anywhere but 9th, but even 9th, I'm still probably open to it. I also, like I said, I'm going to have interest in both of these pitchers. Or I didn't say both, but I do think Lyles, I think Lyles is a little bit ahead of my ownership for Gomber right now. And I can't believe I'm saying this on a 2,500 that I might actually consider using Lyles in one of mine. Like, I really am considering it. And it would be kind of like poetic in a funny way. I've made so much money off this guy stacking against him. And to get him to win a tournament for $1 million would be kind of like just one of those things that would be hilarious after the fact. But aside from my own selfish narrative, I do think that he's in play at 5,200, and I think Gomber is definitely in play. Lefties against Texas have been money. I agree with you about Texas value. I think look, you've got Pozo, Peters, and Solak, who cost nothing. Peters and Solak just hit home runs last night. Peters is actually he's got both he and Solak have a little bit of pop. I mean, Peters is homered now 2 games in a row. He's homered 4 out of his last 7. That's great for a guy who's 2,400. I'll take it against a lefty, even though I think Gomber is really good. So I see your confliction there, but I think we can do, some of both. I just don't know if you're thinking for one lineup, what to do with this game, because I could see making like I said, I can make an argument both ways. All right, we have the other chalk hitting stack and the chalk pitcher in this next game. I'm taking it you have nothing bad to say about Giolito here, right?
No, I don't.
Yep. Same here.
I have him rated as my top pitcher. I'm going to have to play him. I mean, I'm just going to have to play him in that big lineup. I can't avoid it. And interestingly, though, I mean, we could talk about the other thing that you said. I didn't quite have as much interest in the White Sox. So that's something I could do to be a little bit different, I suppose.
Well, they're going to have trouble. They're expensive for the most part,
okay.
but they're projecting. I mean, they're the second highest run total on the slate. This is exactly the type of spot you want to stack the White Sox in. Their problem in general, why you can't stack them as much, is they don't walk enough as a team, and you want guys who walk, keep the lineup turning over and all that. But they have so much power, and they've been a little more patient lately. And we saw it in that series with the Cubs. I mean, when you have teams that have given up on the season like Pittsburgh right now, look, I actually don't think that, I think of all the Pittsburgh guys, I don't think Bryce Wilson is the worst pitcher in the world. But I think between he and their bullpen behind him and whatever they choose, whether it's to leave him out there too long or pull him early, these Pittsburgh, Chicago Cubs, as we were talking about earlier with, even teams like Washington, teams that have given up, Baltimore, given up on the season, that you do want to sort of try and take advantage of some of these spots. And I do have Chicago as one of my favorite stacks on the board. And there's a lot of ways you can do it. I say they're expensive, but you've got Moncada, Robert, and Andrew Vaughn to sort of save you a little bit of salary. So I'm high on the White Sox tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking at it again, and I do have them rated second or third in raw points, and I do have them like fifth or sixth in value too. So yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So I'll include them in my mix. I mean, again, I'm looking for a non-Toronto team to be my main stack, and I guess the White Sox are definitely in the running.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, not as hot, but pretty decent hitting weather from a dew point, and the wind's sort of side to side, but it's pretty good hitting weather historically if you take this kind of a game in Chicago. So I'm sort of a fan of that as well. All right, let's move on to Cleveland and KC. I'm wondering why there's no total on this game yet, because both pitchers seem like they're supposed to pitch tonight. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm guessing that we don't have confirmation, is why I don't have a total. And this game sort of fits into the same type of, I could see the argument for Minor, I could see the argument for the value on Cleveland. I don't think you can play Plesac at the same prices, even though I don't think he's like the worst or anything. It's just, it's mostly bluff for me here, but I think Minor, I mean, look, he has a 5.5K prop. Well, Giolito has a 6.5K prop, and Minor has talent, even though he hasn't pitched well this season. For the most part, we have seen his strikeout upside in certain games, and he's 7K. So I have Minor on my list, and I would like to get to a little bit of. I wanted to try and take some shots on some of the KC guys here, but I just couldn't. When I tried to build lineups, I never really found myself wanting to play any of them except for maybe Hunter Dozier at 2,300.
If I don't play Snell, I'm going to play Minor. That's where I'm at. He's going to be the lower owned of the SB2s, I believe. And that's and obviously I got 100 hours to decide this, but if I don't play, it's good. What's that?
It's plenty of time.
Yeah, it's either going to be Giolito Snell, Giolito Woodruff, or Giolito Minor for me. And I haven't quite decided which it's going to be. And Minor's definitely in that short list. And yeah, it's freaking scary as hell to go up against freaking Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes coming from the right side, But it is what it is. He's only 7K, and he's got strikeout upside, and and he's got lefty tricks also. I mean, like I like him at 7K. He's definitely on my short list. I am also going to be playing some KC in not the big one, but I'm gonna have some KC in the big in the smaller stuff. They rate to be pretty good stack, given their ownership as well, and just as this maybe in the 11 or something like that. I'm definitely gonna have some of that. But for me, it's this is a pretty major decision point for me whether to play Minor or not. And no, I'm not gonna be playing Plesac.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about the ownership on this kind of slate, obviously. But I do think Minor is, there's a path for him to have a nice game here. You look at the bottom of this Cleveland lineup. I was saying that though. I mean, look, you could Owen Miller's 2,300, Oscar Mercado's 2,300. Whether it's Hedges or Ramos, my guess is it actually might be Ramos tonight, who's got a good history against Minor. Zimmer, even in a lefty, is 2,400. Yu Chang is 28. I mean, like literally Miles Straw 31. Outside of the giant bats, and Minor has given up some serious power, and he's had some really big blow up games. I don't think it's also not the best hitting conditions you'll ever see, but I don't think it's wrong to play some of these Cleveland guys for value. There's just a lot of upside there, I think. And you have Minor, who, 4 of his last 5 games has given up at least 2 home runs. So I kind of like that as another place to get value. I think that we do have enough value tonight. Sadly, we don't have the insane pitchers to pay up for that we could pay 12 and 11K for, whether it be Burns or whoever, Burns and Ray, let's say. But there is value out there if we want it. Okay, Chicago, Minnesota. This is an interesting one, another interesting one. I think that Minnesota and Chicago are so firmly in play, and it feels horrible, the idea of stacking the Cubs, but like the Cubs have gone completely off in a few games lately. Maybe it's not the worst thing to do. I have them as like 5 and 6 right now, but I definitely think they're both in play, and Patrick Wisdom is on another level at this moment. Gant is terrible with a bad bullpen behind him. We have Davies, who's bad with a bad bullpen behind him on the other side. I like both spots in this game. I think you're going to see, obviously, incredible chalk on Byron Buxton. I will happily eat the Byron Buxton cheap chalk. I understand somebody wrote the other day it was his second game. I think it was his 4th at bat. And they're like, God, when will Buxton get going already? And I thought it was a joke and it was a serious comment. That's crazy. But Byron Buxton, look at the projections of Byron Buxton. You won't see a hitter with better point. You won't see a 3,200 guy with like a 11.5 projection on DraftKings, like ever. So Byron Buxton is where you start. Josh Donaldson is where you go next. Miguel Sano is where you go after that. And Polanco is where you go after that, along with Kepler, if you're me.
Yeah, this is kind of a pass for me. The 2 guys that stood out for me on Minnesota were actually cheapos. Were aside from Buxton, obviously, but it was Jeffers and Arias in my first look. So I didn't really
play Arias. Just play Josh Donaldson at 38,900. You know what I mean?
Probably, right.
You got to you don't want to one-off with.
So
them.
yeah, I didn't quite get to Minnesota first glance, but I'll take another look a little bit later.
Zach Davies has given up, 7. He's given up 9 home runs in his last 4 starts that have totaled 15 innings. I think it's just a guy we should be attacking. I really do. And at the same time, the Chicago bullpen about to just don't care and let the guys go out there. We saw what happened with the White Sox. They put up those 2 monster games against them. I think we might see the same thing again here tonight for Minnesota. So I'm talking myself.
Is Buxton out for some reason?
I don't know what you mean. Like of course he could be out. I don't see why he would be. He just came back off the DL.
Oh no, okay. I don't have him projected today. That's the only reason.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
We'll see.
But I really think that pricing on these Minnesota guys, they're probably going to have to be pretty chalky based on that. But I don't think they'll be owned on the other side. And you get Gant, who we've been picking on all year for good reason. What are we doing? Why are we not looking at these guys, especially Wisdom? I mean, I think we just have to sort of, first of all, Wisdom as a guy I've always liked with incredible power.
No, we don't like Wisdom, right?
Wisdom, yeah, he cost me 100K, that 120K actually. But Wisdom does have an incredible power, especially at his one weakness being, his strikeouts. And we have a pitcher that basically hasn't been really striking anybody out with a bad bullpen behind him. And he's 4,700. He was multi-position eligible. I'm very into the Wisdom one-off, if not the Chicago stack. I think Happ would be the other guy for me, just a little more expensive than I want to pay. But I really like both these teams. I'm going to get more on that game than I think I was initially going to.
Of course, it would be just the ultimate fittingness if you won $1 million of Wisdom after losing.
I deserve it. I deserve it. I need it back. I'm just kidding. All right, Yankees and Angels. Don't look at the Ohtani thing. Ohtani will not pitch tonight. It's going to be Berea and Tyon. And Sheets, I have a little bit of interest in Tyon. Just to be honest, again, I think Snell is the better play. But if we're going to talk about Mike Minor, let's talk about the guy who was the pitcher of the month last month. I know he's not a high strikeout guy. This Angels lineup doesn't leave a lot to be, scared of. I think that he's solid. He had struggled against Oakland. He struggled against the White Sox recently. Pitched fine against Minnesota. Hasn't really done anything great, but I think he's a good bet for 20 fantasy points at 7,300 with maybe some upside on that against this Angels team that we've seen horrible pitchers dominate. And then I like the Yankees a lot. They're one of the stacks that I really do like. I think Rizzo and Judge are going to be the chalkiest ones of the bunch because you can get people in. But I think they're all going to be pretty owned. I think if Rizzo's going to be more popular, just switch over to Luke Voigt. He's a better type of tournament play anyway because he doesn't walk as much and he hits more home runs. So I'm always going to be the guy siding with Voigt over Rizzo, regardless of matchup. Just wanted to throw that part out there. But the Yankees are a premium stack for me today.
Yeah, I agree with that. Pretty much everything you said. I think the Yankees are one of the top options. I mean, along with Toronto and the White Sox, those are probably the three, more obvious, I suppose, teams to target. And I'm considering some combination of that in my big buy actually. With respect to Talion, I have him just below the guys that I had already mentioned. Well, we didn't get to Woodruff yet, but between after Giolito, Snell, Woodruff, Minor, I have Talion literally just below that. So I'm totally in there. I certainly, I think I prefer. Actually, I shouldn't say I prefer Minor. You know what I mean? Because if you play Minor, you got to worry about Ramirez and Reyes destroying your life. When you play Talion, you're worried about like Joe Adell. You know what I mean? Like I'm not particularly, like you're saying, not particularly scared of the Angels lineup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe Talion is the idea. I'm gonna look at that a little bit more later, but definitely the Yankees. Stanton, Rizzo, Voigt, Urshela. I mean, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's probably worth noting too. Like Ohtani's not pitching tonight because he got hit by a pitch, and if for some reason he doesn't end up hitting, which he's supposed to hit, that makes Tyon, I think, a much better play, obviously, because this lineup is pretty putrid without him. I do like Jared Walsh a little bit. If you're at a weird spot, you just need 4,200 for a first baseman. I don't think he's a terrible play. All right, San Diego, Arizona. I think that Snell is your other starting pitcher. I think you could argue for him he's like the only one you could argue versus Giolito, and I think you can argue it, but I think it's pretty clearly those two in cash games. I think it's pretty clearly those two in all formats, and I agree with it. We do know with Snell though that there's always a downside, and we've seen it even against this Arizona team where even when he's been good at times, we've seen some walks. How many walks did he have the last couple of times? He had 5 walks over the last 2 times he faced them. He had the monster game against them that one time out, but he's pitched against them 2 out of his last 4. He's an awesome play. I don't find myself getting to a ton of San Diego, which kind of worries me. They're the team that I don't have ownership of that I feel like could really get me. But I think Gallen's a good enough pitcher. I just think that the bullpen is so bad, it would make me want some. I don't think I'm going to end up being able to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be able to do it. That's the team that's right on the outside looking in for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at Toronto, White Sox, and Yankees. And the only problem is that if I'm going to go on the outside looking in, I want a big ownership discount. I don't think I'm going to get it with the Padres. Not that they're going to be like chalky or anything like that, but it's not like they're going to be like, half, whatever the ownership of these other teams. I mean, because Tatis is always going to be played, and Machado's cheap enough. I don't know. I definitely consider them, and maybe Grisham would be a good, maybe Grisham, Cronenworth, like those guys look pretty good. Hosmer, Pham, whatever. But they're right on the outside looking. I don't know. And again, I have to determine what type of ownership profile I want to consider for this bigger buy-in, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if I go, Snell, Giolito, for example, right? Can I even play Yankee? And let's say I want to do a
Snell and Giolito are cheap. Those are cheap. Those are spend downs.
No, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if I play those guys, can I even play Yankees, White Sox, or Toronto without just being like just uber chalky and just no chance to win, Yes. Or should I not worry about that? I still think I should worry about that somewhat,
Yeah,
so
I agree with
that's
you.
why teams like the Padres kind of get into my mix.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. That's a very good point, actually.
I mean, you tell me, I've never played this one. I've never played something this
So
big.
you look, so one of the mistakes I made when I was playing big tournaments early on, like big buy-ins, was I tried to get a little too off the board.
Okay.
But if you like something off the board, it makes sense. And I think there's clearly a path for San Diego here. So I have no problem with like, yeah, let's play all of the, all the Padres or whatever. I'm on board with it. I just don't think it's the route that I'm building personally.
No, but talk to me more in general. You know what I mean about a tournament like this one. Like how off the board do you need to? I mean, how many people are going to be in this thing? Like 500? No,
people will play more chalky in that. I think there's 1,000 people in it, right?
Okay.
People will play more chalky overall. A lot of people, the satellite winners are going to be a little bit more concerned about,
Right.
going off the board.
Right.
In baseball, that's almost always wrong. But
Yeah.
you don't need to go completely wrong off of it and try and get too cute with your pitchers to try and get off that. Like I would probably, if you like two pitchers, stick with your pitchers you like,
Okay.
and deal with the consequences afterwards.
And like you were saying, by the way, I mean, there's ways to, and this is like the Bobby special. There's ways to use these teams without getting too chalky. Like you said, you gave a good example, like Luke Voigt.
Mhm.
Like Luke Voigt's not going to be as owned as Rizzo. Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's different ways you can do in the bottom of the Cubs, play Brian Goodwin. If you're going to play, I'm sorry, the bottom of the White Sox, play a 5-man Goodwin. I sort of like that. That's sort of what I like about this Minnesota game. And I'm just looking at the weather in Minnesota because I wanted to see, the weather in Minnesota, by the way, it's a pretty big boost, even though the wind's blowing slightly in. It looks like a pretty giant boost, especially the home runs. So that's what I'm looking at, thinking of more and more as we go through this each game. But I definitely can always see the argument for San Diego. And then you've got a really cheap Brandon Woodruff with the lowest strikeout total I think I've seen him have all season, who just put up a monster game against Cincinnati, who doesn't really strike out in his last game. We finally got the really, really good version of him. I think Brandon Woodruff is a terrific tournament play. I'm just curious where the ownership ends up on him, because I can't be the only one who thinks that. I do think Snell and Giolito eat up most of it, but Woodruff is right there, man. Those three stand out above everybody else for me. I don't like picking on San Francisco, but we did see Corbin Burns last night be pretty great against them. And Woodruff, while not quite as dominant from a strikeout standpoint, hasn't been as good lately, other than last game out. I really like Woodruff. That's pretty much all I've got in this game.
I like Woodruff. He's one of my top 4, and I have no problem playing him. I don't know if I'm going to, but again, it depends on what I decide to do. I think he's part of the lower owned. You know what I mean? Like I think he's lower owned than the Giolito Snell combination. So I like that. And I do like a little bit of Milwaukee too. I don't think it's a big priority, but I do like a little Milwaukee also.
Yep. I don't know who's pitching for the Giants, so I'm wondering how you're getting the Milwaukee in there. I think maybe the pricing stands out to you or something. It's kind of hard for me on a 15-game slate to want to take lousy hitters it's really just that they're cheap, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I don't know who's pitching for San Francisco yet. I mean, somehow they haven't released that. Which is, they must have it. I mean, why do they have a total if they don't have the picture? All right, I must just not have it in front of me right now. I'm sure we'll find out very shortly after, and we'll have a bunch of people correcting us in the YouTube chat, because that's what people love to do sometimes. All right, you want to talk about off the board tonight in a strange way. The Cy Young winner is going to be off the board, okay? As he almost always is, and he's probably not going to be in my lineups either. He is a incredible tournament play. If you have people say it like he doesn't have upside. This guy hasn't scored less than 27 fantasy points in his last 4 starts. He's had no less than 8 Ks in any of those starts. He's only had less than 8 Ks once in his last 10 starts. I don't really understand, why people view him the way that they do. And I think that they're just wrong for the most part, but it is a tougher matchup. That's pretty much all I got. I don't think, and he's more expensive if that really matters today. I don't know that it does. And then you've got Morton on the other side. I'm just not going to pick on the Dodgers lineup. It's tough to do. I get it with Morton at this price. And yeah, I was saying play Morton against the Yankees. It's a little different because the strikeout upside is much higher against the Yankees, and Morton's been awesome. But I just would rather use the other guys in his price range. I do sort of like the idea of playing Buehler in his own tier.
Pass for me. all prongs of this game. Bueller's totally same speech as always for me. It's totally fine. I have him ranked 5th. He always is ranked 5th. Whenever,
you say this, but he keeps winning everybody all the GPPs.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And that's just going to be the way it is, I guess. And I'm not playing Morton against the Dodgers. I'm not playing Dodgers against Morton, and I'm not playing Braves against Bueller. I'm just not getting there.
I will play some Dodgers on FanDuel in the 150. I'm going to probably play 10 of those. I will be on the Dodgers over there a tiny bit, just because I think there's some power upside here against Morton, pitch type and whatnot. Seager, Muncy especially stand out, and oddly Bellinger stands out, but I don't think I can get to him. I don't even know if he'll play. And he's been so bad, but I don't know. That's all I've got. Houston. So this is interesting. Houston and Seattle. The first guy who sort of caught my eye on, I mean, I was sort of into the McCullers idea on FanDuel a little bit. And maybe you could make a case for him on DraftKings. I think it's a little harder, but on FanDuel, the pricing's a little different, and he's 9,200 over there. I feel like he's got an excellent shot at a quality start against the Seattle team. I feel like, I mean, he's got a chance at, he just pitched against this team. What did he have? 8 strikeouts in 6 innings, put up 25 fantasy points on DK. I would take that all day on a FanDuel score for sure. What was that on FanDuel? I believe he put up 46. It's a pretty good score. I like him on FanDuel. I don't have much interest in him on DraftKings. How about you?
Yeah, just not today. I will say that I have seen Kikuchi have good games against Houston. I don't even remember exactly when it was, but I've seen it. I just can't today. Or can I?
It wasn't the last time he pitched against Houston, I'll tell you that. He gave up like 8 runs in 2 innings.
Yeah, then there wouldn't have been that one. McCullers is the outside looking in. He's, just not going to get there. And actually Kikuchi is just not even barely on my list. So just kind of ran out of teams, ran out of room. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think I'm going to get too much of this.
Crazy one-off play would be Yordan Alvarez for me. Lefty, I don't even care with him. The guy's dialed in right now, and I have it written a little differently. I have it that Houston absolutely owns Kikuchi, and is almost single-handedly the reason why he's not considered a better pitcher, because he faces him so much. So I would maybe have liked them if they were somehow reasonable price. Maybe I get to them on FanDuel in one of the 150s or something. But I don't think it's going to happen for me on this slate. What do you think about McCullers? Nothing on how about on FanDuel?
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I'll just throw out that I think on FanDuel he's in play at 9,200. I think that's a very reasonable price for him.
Well, actually, yeah, I actually have him as one of the top options on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it. I do have Giolito just still like the best play, but after that, it's kind of bunched for me between McCullers, Snell, and Minor again.
The only players. Here's a question for you. Here's what I've got, and you might have different projections. Of course, you do sometimes, but there are only 3 players with a better raw point projection than Byron Buxton today. Those are George Springer, Vlad Guerrero, and Fernando Tatis.
Yeah, I gotta see what's going on because I don't have him projected, so I gotta see who he's playing. I gotta see what happens.
Yeah, if he's playing,
I'll find it. I'll find it.
If he's playing, I can almost say without, with all certainty that he'll be in 2 of my 3 big ones. I really just think you're getting a guy who's like a 6K player. With the problem is the speed upside isn't quite going to be there because they're going to probably bring him along. They're not going to probably let him run as much, so you lose a little bit of that. But the power and everything, and Davies, who gives up righty power, it's 3,200. I mean, it's, come on, man. I'll play him on FanDuel too. At 3,700. All right, so you want to let's sum it up real quick.
Yeah, Giolito, Snell, McCullers, and Minor for me. My top 4. Giolito, Snell, Woodruff, Minor. My top 4 pitchers. Then my top hitting is Toronto, Yankees, White Sox, and then Padres just on the outside looking in. And I am going to just have to revisit the Minnesota thing with Buxton. And then I just have to figure out how much of that I can play without being too chalky. Yeah.
So here's what I've got. I have the Twins now. I mean, just the pricing and everything is sort of, they're a perfect combo stack. They're a good stack. They're going to be I'm going to have heavy exposure to the Twins. I'm going to have heavy exposure to the White Sox, Yankees, and Blue Jays. I will also have heavy exposure to the Cubs, especially Wisdom. And I think Tampa Bay mini stacks, Colorado, Texas, and San Diego I'm deciding on. But the 5 ones that I have above everybody else are Minnesota, both Chicago's, Toronto, and the Yankees. With the Philadelphia Washington game in question, so because of the weather. I know that's a lot of teams, but I do think Minnesota is starting to look like a perfect combo stack with one of those White Sox, Toronto, Yankees that may end up being too chalky, but I am going to let the ownership projections do what they do and see where we're at later today. I think my pitchers, I love Giolito. I like the idea of Woodruff, even though I don't like him quite as much as Giolito and Snell. I think that Buehler would be a really, really, I mean, there's a path where these other guys do bust and Buehler ends up as the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. Even if he wins by 1 point, you're getting different enough in your build. You don't need the money that much. Right. If Buehler was 9,400, we would all be talking about playing him even against Atlanta. So I think Tyon, Minor, Walker, Lyles, Gomber are your longer shot GPP plays. I think Lyles is the one I may sneak in just because of how little respect I have for for Colorado, and that I actually think it's a decent enough matchup for him. On the flip side, I think you want to try to sprinkle in some of the speed guys, like especially Trevor Story stands out as a terrific one-off play, just with his power speed upside. I mean, Lyles cannot, partly why we love stacking against him is because he gives up tons of power and a million stolen bases. So you can steal it every time. So anyway, all right, guys. Well, I will have my stuff updated on the site very shortly. Sheets has got his sheets up. We've got another show at 6 Eastern that'll probably go just quicker because we've got it's a monster slate. I'm playing, double-digit figures of double-digit K in entries today. So I'd like to focus at the last 40 minutes on that or so, but we will be here with you guys at 6 Eastern. Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
Nope. I will see you later on.
Good luck to everybody. Let's crush it tonight.